Good morning and welcome to my interview with Farouk. He's with Feadship Royal Dutch Shipyards. This is Rick Thomas, your host of Yachting International Radio's Yachting USA. And Farouk, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for joining us on board of amazing Feadship W.
Is this not an amazing boat? Oh my God.
It's always a pleasure to be inside.
It is.
When the weather is horrible outside.
I know. It's like we're watching this weather all week going, how is it that we're going to have this kind of weather? And then how is it that I managed to book these interviews on these beautiful boats today? So it's, I guess, meant to be.
Well, it reminded me a little bit because if you look outside, it's dark. It's, it's a little bit ugly, if you will, for a boating day.
Yeah.
And in 2017, we had a horrible weather in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
And that was the day that we had our big event. And we had a tent like we have now. So we took the decision to let the party simply continue. So the band was playing. The tent was all over the place. And we managed to shut it down. Everybody was soaking wet and we were getting a lot of friends in. We closed it off. And we told, it was like the Titanic when the band was playing and we said to the band, okay, continue playing. Go. And everybody was in and we were having a blast of an event.
Don't you?
Everybody was so intimate. And this is...
Think a little adversity sometimes brings camaraderie?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because people experienced that as an amazing event because of the intimacy, because we were all in the same situation. Nowhere to hide, but in the tent. So everybody was gathering together. We had good food, good drinks, good music. So
what else you need?
There you go.
What else you need? It's interesting because my son Tristan is helping me today. And he mentioned as we're coming to the boat, he says, Dad, W, we go by it all the time on our boat because it's typically moored right outside the Feadship office in Fort Lauderdale. And she is so beautiful from the water.
Yes.
She is a beautiful boat from the water. And so it is cool to be on board today and having this conversation with one of my heroes in the industry. So
thank you.
You'll learn why I consider you a hero of mine in this industry when you understand where I'm going with all this. But we were talking a few minutes ago about Palm Beach.
Yes.
And I said that a few years ago I was looking at what was happening here in Palm Beach and compare that and contrast that to Fort Lauderdale. Both great shows, both produced by Informa. This is the best show. And I tell you why this is the best show. One, I think the culture of Palm Beach, the ambiance, the richness of this area is conducive for doing business here.
Yes.
This is where our clients want to be. It's comfortable. It's safe. It's easy to come and go. It's an elegant show. Fort Lauderdale has grown up and it's split over so many venues and hard to park and it's hard to get reservations and it's like too commercial.
Yeah, well, there is a lot more organizational hassle, if you will, with regards to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show.
Right.
I do agree with you totally on the quality of visitors. Of course, there is a much better ambience here, simply because it's more quiet, it's more zen, it's less cacophonous.
Yes, I like that's a good word.
But what I feel is that the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, but also if there's not a show, the connection with the industry, so the stakeholders in the industry, with the captains, owners, reps, brokers, everybody connects so well. So everybody comes in, have a little talk, an update about whatever situation in the market is occurring. And that you have that a lot. Here, it's very business oriented.
Yes. And you touched on two different things. So the boat show is its own entity, its own thing.
Yes.
But the day-to-day business, and people continue to ask me, and here's my first piece of controversy. I don't think it's so controversial, but some people do. Yachting capital of the world.
Yes.
And I've had so many people say, well, it's not Monaco. And I say, no, it's not. I said, Monaco is a beautiful place to go, and there's a lot of big boats, bigger boats than we have here by and large. But if you really try to dig down deep into what defines, quote, the yachting capital of the world, you have to look at the infrastructure, the number of boats, and that's the Venice of America. We have all these canals, and you've seen it.
Yes.
It's just more white boats than you can possibly imagine. So I bring clients from Europe over, and they get on our boat, and we go a little boat ride. And like we did when I saw you at Ted's party. And without exception, they're all absolutely gobsmacked, blown away by the diversity of the boating and the number of boats. And it's truly, I still truly believe that if you look at the heart and soul of the yachting industry, the heart beats here.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we want to talk about, because I think what happens in Europe is so important to the industry. And if you have blinders on to what's happening here versus what's happening in Europe, you're missing so much opportunity and potential. And we will hopefully dive into that a little bit as well.
No, I love what you said about being the capital of the yachting world, in a sense. I do think that you have cultivated the yachting lifestyle a lot in terms of it's so second nature here.
Yeah.
So it's just not only the natural elements, the number of marinas that have been built, but everything is surrounded by yachts. They are so, how do you call it, part of a periphery of lifestyle in combination with the real estate that is here on
it's the backdrop,
the restaurants. Everything is so well connected. And so it really taps into what is yachting all about. And what you said about it doesn't matter whether it's a small boat or a big boat. It is all part of this whole experience.
That's right.
And that's what I actually love about this industry. So from the emotion that comes together with experiencing all of this, it doesn't matter how big your boat is.
No.
Being on the water, the fact that you're sailing out there, the Zen momentum, or if you want to have a really fast drive, you could put it on your powerboat and you go for it. But what I'm saying is that the sensation and the whole experience, the quality time effect of it is absolutely the best thing that I can imagine in any other industry. That's what I love about this industry, and that's what connects us.
I agree. It was a wake-up call, and I'm so happy that I can say I lived it tangibly.
Yeah.
COVID came, and early 2020, things are shutting down. Now, I'm happy to say the state of Florida was pretty intelligent ultimately in opening things up quicker than most places did. But for a while, we were all shut down. I was fortunate to have my little 10-meter boat tied behind the house I had in Fort Lauderdale. And my boys were out of school. This remote learning bullshit, that didn't work. It was bad for the kids, really, But we were able to throw lines off on our dock. I had my fuel bunkered up, I normally try to keep it full anyway. And for the next 2 months, while everything was shut down, we were going out diving. It was amazing to see how quickly the marine life came back to the reefs without all the pressures of all the fishing and all the boating and all the shipping and all the stuff that happens offshore here. Yeah. But more importantly, we started noticing other boats out there, and it became such a thing, and it ultimately drove our industry to high highs because people, I think, all of a sudden really learned and appreciated.
Well, this was a phenomenon that was happening actually all over the world.
Good to hear.
So when COVID started, first of all, we all thought we were going to die. What is happening? Right? We were not allowed to go outside. Everybody stayed inside. Nobody had the first, it was so uncertain in those days.
Yeah.
So from March, when all of this was announced, especially from the Dutch perspective, up to August, dead silent. The industry was, everybody was out there on the water, and everybody was. It was a form of escapism and cocooning on your boat.
Yeah, social distancing.
Abiding the rules.
Yeah.
But still, you had the opportunity to go out there on the water as long as you didn't meet people. But from a business point of view, there were no phone calls anymore. There was no lead to follow up.
No.
It was dead silent.
Yeah, terrifying in a way.
It was terrifying. But from August onwards, we started doing our things to really showcase that we're out there. And then suddenly it started. And this enormous awareness and the willingness of people to now invest in yachting and buy a boat was instrumental to where we are today.
Unintended consequences.
No, definitely. It was also fascinating to follow because it was everybody was successful.
Right.
Everybody saw the light.
Yes.
It was an amazing
epiphany in a way.
Yeah,
absolutely. So for those who listen to my podcast, understand that I've got 4 decades in this industry. Mm-hmm. I feel very fortunate and blessed to have worked with so many icons and shipyards all over the world. And maybe that's one of my biggest blessings is because of my previous business with nautical structures, I didn't have any conflict of interest going into any shipyard. I was welcomed everywhere. So
Yes.
I've been throughout Northern and Southern Europe, Turkey, the Middle East, Asia, throughout the North American continent, the Caribbean. I have seen probably every single way boats are built. And what occurred to me, was something I wanted to talk about, is Feadship itself. When we try to talk about successful shipyards, a little deeper dive, when you even consider the name Feadship, Royal Dutch Shipyards, in what evolved coming out of World War II, and how a group of yards, a lot of people have an incorrect impression, most of the people outside the industry, that Feadship is a brand from a boat builder someplace in Holland. It's actually not. It's actually a couple builders working together most of the time, not always.
Yes.
And the De Vrieses and the Van Lents, they have their moments, live that too, and it's fun. But there is a collaboration. There is a synergetic relationship that works. I point to when I got in this industry, in North America, there were just over 44 shipyards that I could count. I'm probably missing a couple, building cruise-served yachts. So that would be 20, 25 meters and larger.
Yeah, we say 30 meters and up, mostly.
There were 34 shipyards building 30 meters, 100 foot and up. We're down to 4, I think.
Okay.
Wow. And that's happened over the last 20, 25 years or so. A lot of reasons for that. I'm the first critic of some of the culture that we've had, and some of it is owner culture, some of it's perception. The luxury tax that the Bush administration put on in 1990 didn't help things, and things since then have been challenging. But still, nonetheless, we have lost so much of our shipyard legacy. And as America, North America, United States and Canada.
Yes.
And I've watched the amazing evolution of the European market. I was involved, actually, Michael Bremen was at Lursen, had just joined. Craig DeFoya had signed a contract with Mr. Wexner to build Limitless. Now, I think that was Lursen's first really big yacht, almost 196 meter, I think it was. And I was involved in that build. And that was what I noticed as the start of building big yachts in Northern Europe. And you guys, as a industry, have killed it. I say that in a very complimentary way. Got to be careful with my American.
No, you go ahead. I totally understand what you're saying.
And so I'd love to hear your perspective as to how that has happened. Because I've got my own ideas, but I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah. So first of all, you tapped onto a little historic look at how Feadship came about. And actually, not a lot of people know that the name Feadship also came forth out of that collaboration, because it's an acronym and it stands for First Export Association of Dutch Shipbuilders.
Love it. Okay.
So that's the name Feadship for everybody that doesn't know that. When you say European, you're referring to the North
Generally
European
speaking,
yards,
Holland,
if you
Germany.
talk about the large yards.
Yeah.
I think you could all cultivate them into one little bracket, or try to tie them in one little bracket. What the big advantage, I think, what made the industry thrive in Europe in that way, is the fact that we have a full supply chain industry that is all within probably 200 kilometers. Sorry for me to say speak in kilometers.
We can work with that.
So within a circle of 200 kilometers, we have all the supply chain at our hands.
Right.
So which means all the knowledge institutes, all the educational institutes, all the suppliers, whether that is engines or whatever you could think of, all within a circle of 200 kilometers. And that's the zone where all of the industry is actually working from. Having that infrastructure, that embodiment of a whole ecosystem, if you will, to be very efficient, to be very innovative, and at the same time also invest heavily in maintaining the craft factor of the industry, the craftsmanship that is related to it, which is a very big challenge.
And you said invest. Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
We are investing. To give you an example, we have our own educational schools at Feadship.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Which is actually investing in people and making them see that working with your hands is also something that has great value. And we take them on, we educate them to become a timberman or a welder or a painter or you name it. The real craftsmen that really make the difference. And a naval architect is also a craftsman.
Absolutely.
So it is, but getting them on board, educating them, and letting them experience what it means to deliver up to that quality, to deliver perfection, if you will. And letting them walk hand in hand with a senior timberman, and letting them experience for 5 years what it's like to get into your absolute peak of being the specialist that you are, and then letting them go to rule over their projects and be totally into that.
It takes some ownership of what's happening there.
So that's what I mean with investment.
Yes.
We take the time, we have the patience. It is allowed to make mistakes because that's what you learn from.
That's right.
And it's a culture of making sure that we have a safe environment and we let people thrive and grow into what they're good at. And we try to pull out the talent in them. And that's what makes Feadship, I guess.
I can attest to that personally because as an American manufacturer, I was able to supply a few of the builds, mostly at DeVries. We also did a bunch of work with Royal Heisman and a couple other Dutch shipyards. Mm-hmm. And the culture was fairly consistent and it was very nurturing and supportive. Mm-hmm. No question. High expectations maintained. And when you realize you might have missed the target slightly, the support that came back about, okay, how are we going to get on that target and get where we want to get? And that is so sometimes missing, I think, in a lot of boat building culture. Here in the States, my experience has been that there's a lot of us and them instead of we. And that maybe worked 20 years ago, but look where we are now. So, we're sitting in an area where I think there is still the desire to be productive.
Yes.
And we still need to look at this next generation coming up and culture them into understanding that if you go in and take a high-skilled trade and master it, you do an apprenticeship, you have a pathway to a career to success, to go to a liberal arts college, get a degree in sociology. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do with that piece of paper? Mm-hmm. You spend a lot of money for that education and then you come out in the workplace and you can't find a job. Meanwhile, we are all looking for this next generation to come in and do something. Mm-hmm. And that's what I noticed in Northern Europe, particularly in Holland specifically. There's 2 and 3 generations working in the shipyard.
Yes.
Grandfather, father, and son.
We actually have that still.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That is incredible, but I don't think Europe was, I think you meant it from a US perspective, talking about them and us, right?
No, I'm talking about shipyards in the US.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, not US versus Europe.
So the yards in Europe were actually growing their business.
Right.
In the situation of Feadship, we came out of World War II, we didn't have anything to sell. We came to America, introduced ourselves, and that's how it all started.
Yeah.
The opportunities, because I sense that you're headed that way. If you look at the opportunities, look at the fleet out here. The fleet is growing every year.
It is.
And no yachts are really disappearing. So the fleet is getting larger. Right. The necessity and the need for refit maintenance and all those activities that are also yachting, that have everything to do with our production mentality and so on, are also very valid here. So we, for instance, just opened our Savannah facility.
I was going to bring that up.
So we're investing here in the US. We have our office here. Because we want our fleet to be serviced in an appropriate manner. We have a term for that. Is your Feadship still a Feadship?
Yes.
Because does it still carry the Feadship DNA?
Right.
And, the Feadship DNA is all about... actually, the owner of W yesterday, he gave me a tour and he said, you guys are freaks. because he showed me the doors, and very heavy doors, the doors that connect one space with the other.
Right. Water doors.
And the hinges. Right. That the doors are attached to, the screws, the single line screws, they were all straight.
Of course.
And he said, you guys are freaks.
Yeah.
Because this is what makes Feadship. So that mentality.
Attention to detail.
Attention to detail.
Throughout.
Throughout.
Yeah.
And that level of attention to detail, but attention to detail needs to have two things also. Functionality, and it also serves the aesthetic purpose.
That's right.
So that is
right.
a very
Form
important
function
element.
type of thing.
Absolutely.
So you brought up something that I wanted to compliment you on, because in my previous workspace, and where I'll be going with this business that Herb and I are putting together, we get involved in refit management.
Yes.
And I have had the experience of a couple potential clients that we tried to bring their Feadship into refit here in the States. And son of a gun if they didn't end up in Malcolm or into Amsterdam, because is the Feadship still a Feadship? And that was so effective. It was so effective. And then when I heard the move into Savannah Yachting Center, which, I've watched that shipyard grow. And I'll talk to that a little bit too, because I was involved with George Whitehouse and Jim Bareilles as they were building that shipyard before Safe Harbors came in, and watched it go from a basic little commercial yard into something, pretty special. And with the ability to have a graving dock that works and the ability to bring big boats in and service them at a high degree, makes sense that you would then put your own investment into that facility to have a place to bring your boats.
Of course. But we're doing that already here also at Rybovich.
Right.
We have a strategic alliance with Rybovich. We're now having that also in Savannah, because you simply need multiple locations to be able to service. And there's a high demand. There's the level of employment needed for yachting. It's
such an economic driver.
It is absolutely an economic driver. A lot of people don't really get that. Yeah. But it's not only the build, it is the servicing, it's the crewing, it's the lifespan type of investment always.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely.
And when people talk to me, because I say I'm in the yachting industry, I've had a career in the yachting industry, and they say, that worthless excess spend of money, and it's like, you don't get it. No. There's not, and correct me if you think I'm incorrect here, but everything I've researched tells me there's no other product high net worth individual can purchase that contributes more to the economy than a luxury yacht. Yeah. You can buy a private jet, and you're going to spend, some money to buy that private jet, but you're not going to employ all that many people. They're built production. You get into custom interior. It flies and it goes into a hangar. The crew goes home.
Yeah. Or you buy a very expensive painting and you hang it there and nothing happens.
Yeah, nothing. Exactly.
No, so to give you an example, let me speak about something that is very close to us.
Please.
So in Holland, in the Netherlands, I should say, the superyacht industry has now surpassed the total maritime industry in Holland. The regular shipbuilding.
Wow. All the stuff in Rotterdam. And
we, as a superyacht industry, and you name them all, we are bigger in volume, in turnover, and employment factor than the whole the maritime industry in total. So that says something about who we are in nature. And on top of that, I wanted to tap into something else, because everybody's talking about these beautiful creations as a luxury item. Right? But if you look beyond that, if you look at the level of innovation that is being put into these creations, for instance, we are about to deliver our first hydrogen fuel cell yacht.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Last year we delivered Obsidian,
right?
Obsidian HVO. So that is the next generation of...
Is that the methane?
No, the HVO biofuels.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
And we did the sea trials with that, which has a reduction of 70-80% less emission than on conventional boats.
It's huge.
So if you look at it from an innovation point of view, and all the practices, if you look at the whole fleet, how many yachts are participating in ocean conservation with data, with exploration, with scientific research, there is a huge purpose in many places that is not seen or not enough highlighted.
People don't talk about it. And that's what I like about what we're doing here, is we're talking about the real nuts and bolts of our industry and why it's important.
Absolutely.
And high net worth individuals can come in and say, I want to spend some of my money on some new technology. you're not going to open up a small boatyard and invest in that kind of technology on the hope that you can achieve something. Only when you have the ability to put this brain trust together
Yes.
at a high level,
Yes.
eventually this starts scaling down to where it shows up in the smaller boats and becomes more common. But you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, you have to start somewhere. And also, I think what is an amazing second nature to this industry is the willingness to a certain extent to collaborate.
Yeah.
So the initiative to set up a foundation called the Water Revolution,
Yes.
it is to initiate, make visible, but also to empower each other in evolving on the front of sustainability and ocean conservation.
Right.
To use our input and learn from each other. I don't think there are many industries that are willing to collaborate in that sense, to really make a difference.
I would agree with that.
And the reason is because without clean oceans, there's no yachting.
Right.
So there is a deeper sense of purpose
Right.
also for us to keep on evolving.
Absolutely.
And that's what I like about our industry. Sorry
Well,
to say so.
and I'll share this with you too. That know me know that I'm a huge supporter of the International Seakeepers Society.
Another beautiful example.
I'll brag sometimes that my 10-meter boat's the smallest boat in their discovery fleet because I use my little boat all the time. Last weekend, Tristan and I were 26 miles out in the Gulf Stream with some scientists that came over from the west coast of Florida, collecting samples for a program they're doing.
Yeah.
And that scales up to these boats.
Yes.
And boats that go places that scientists can't get to any other way.
Yeah, so Archimedes is a beautiful example.
Yes.
Arctic with National Geographic and a lot of scientists on board, and they really have paid tribute to facilitating all those researches.
Yes, and that is, I think that's the part that most people don't really pay attention to or even take the time to understand, that this is an industry and a culture that by and large tends to want to be generous and give back.
Yes.
There's exceptions to every rule, but I've noticed that. And I'm proud of being in this industry because I see that not here, everywhere.
Yes.
Wherever I go.
Absolutely.
And then I've got my young son here who is now learning and experiencing that himself, which I think is wonderful because you get the next generation paying attention to this.
By the way, I gave some lectures about the millennial takeover.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of different characteristics. I also have 3 children. And so I'm experiencing it the way you do.
Right.
I call them the digital natives. You know?
Can I plagiarize that? I like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I call them the digital natives. And everybody is, what I find appalling is everybody is not talking negatively about the next generation because they're always on their iPhone, everything is digital, everything is about that extra dimension. But this generation is also the generation that is driving sustainability. They are driving our consumption behavior, for instance.
They're demanding some change.
Yeah, because look at yourself. Have you ever ordered something online? No, but this is...
All the time.
So who has been driving that? It's because of these generations.
That's right.
They are changing our attitudes also.
Right.
So every generation has its footprint into how we evolve as an industry, but also as a worldwide society. How do we deal with each other? I'm proud of... I was always thinking that we are consuming news, for instance, through our news channels, our traditional news platforms, the CNNs of this world, the Fox News is, and in Holland and in Europe, everywhere in the world there are so many networks, Al Jazeera or whatever someone is watching. And so we are being fed with information that comes out of these networks.
And the narrative they want you to have.
And then, well, I didn't want to go into that, but it's okay. But what I wanted to say is, I was always under the impression that this generation specifically has no clue. How do they get their news? How are they aware? How are they conscious of the context around them? And then I speak to my son, who never watches the news, and I'm having deep, profound discussions about actual situations in the world. And he is on point, opinionated, and very focused.
Bravo.
And I think, oh, wow, where did you get that from? So the way of collecting news, consuming it, consuming information is different, but it's still valid.
Of course.
And I think, by the way, now that you're tapping on that point, is that social media except for the shadow banning that is happening at the moment, is a way of providing information to especially this generation, so that they have some awareness of what's happening in the world, and they are, and it's more transparent, it's more factual, and you have more live streams of what really happening.
Right. You have a better ability to make decisions and create opinions by getting multiple views of the same story, the same objective.
Yeah. It is important, though. Sorry to...
No, it is.
It is important that we find, in one way or another, a way to have one factual starting point.
Yeah.
One agreed starting point for a dialogue.
Right.
Because if we all have our own truths,
right,
there's no dialogue possible.
We
need to come together. Whatever. So we need to have a fact-based situation where you can start your whatever discussion you're going to have. Right. And this is, I think, one of the things that is challenging.
Well, I think what will happen is because, for instance, we're on a podcast right now, so we're talking frankly, and this is free for anybody who wants to listen to it. And this type of information sourcing is becoming more mainstream. 5-10 years ago, it didn't exist really. Yeah. And now this is where so many people come to get, oftentimes both sides of the story. That's what I do. I don't watch the news so much anymore. I don't go to networks. If I'm find something interesting, I try to get on both sides of the equation, listen to it, and make my own opinions based on not one person's information, but multiple sources. And I think that's what you're saying your son's done, is he's taken his time because he's in that social media space and looked for...
Well, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that they indeed get their information in a different way than we probably are doing that, although on the same way that you're getting your information from. Listening to multiple news networks, also from social media, and all of that together gives me, I think, enough information to base my own opinion on. But what I'm saying is this: a lot is happening in the world, always, which is also impacting our industry.
Yep.
Our industry at large, simple sanctions on the Russians is impacting our industry. Yeah. So what I'm saying is there is so much happening. So the geopolitical situation of the moment, if you look at the difference in demographics, the world is becoming larger, which is an opportunity for our industry.
Of course it is.
If you look at the Western world, US, Canada, Europe, we have an aging population. We have more older people than younger people.
That's true.
While in other parts of the world, the situation is the opposite. Right. We have more younger people there than older people. And where is the biggest spike in ultra-high net worth value? It's in those regions.
Right.
So they are going
India,
to be
China,
the next destination for yachting also.
Right.
There is a yachting culture in the Middle Eastern region.
That's right.
They also sail their dhows. So it is not exclusively limited to our way of living, to the Western culture.
Absolutely not.
And this is opportunity. And the globalization is also bringing people together, because an Indian ultra high net worth, he's traveling the world, or she, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
And they are connecting with their peers, and they are adopting to each other's lifestyle, which makes our industry accessible.
Right.
But everybody needs to be aware of our opportunities that are in Asia, that are in the Middle Eastern region. Africa is growing still.
Yes.
And Latin America. And so
you get out of the box.
You have to get out of the box. Yeah, right. Absolutely. And there are many other topics that have to do with how the world turns today, where the power shift is taking place, the fact that there are behavioral trends that I can talk for hours about. But if you put all that in the mix, you have a better understanding of the role of the super yacht industry.
Right.
And what I think that role is, it's a very connecting factor. It brings people together. We have such a common understanding. Yes. It's a big family.
Right. You see that in Amsterdam every November at the Global Super Yacht Forum, when we get together as an industry, and it's from all corners of the globe. And for 3 days, there's really, and not just everything that's happening in the forums, but all in the side rooms and at the pubs and around town, you see groups of people coming together, sharing ideas, and then going home with new ideas, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit critical on that.
That's all right. That's what we're here for.
Well, I do think we need some more progressiveness in our industry.
I wouldn't.
A little more. So from an innovation point of view, I think we are all doing our best. Everybody that is tapping into the sustainability factor, if you will,
Right.
The sustainability topic, everybody's paying their tribute to making sure that they are aligned with that. And by the way, I do want to stress that sustainability, in my view, is not something that is going to be that competitive edge that is going to bring you your positioning, standout positioning in the industry. I think this is a collaborative movement that we need to embrace.
The fleet will eventually move in that direction.
Move in that direction because sustainability is a table stake.
Right.
It's not something that you stand out in.
No.
It's something that you have to embed into your organization because the next generations will not take it anymore. So you're obsolete, you become obsolete if you don't embrace sustainability and embed that.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of corporate social responsibility elements that you simply need to embrace to be a valid company for the future and to make a difference and be respectful to your surroundings.
Love that. Now, you just gave me a good segue because I want to put a concept in front of you that I've shared with others. I look at this industry and through my eyes, I sit here and say that this is such a multifaceted industry, but I've distilled down to what I call the sacred trinity of what keeps our industry healthy. And what I describe as the sacred trinity is owners, crew, and shipyard support. Everything else, I believe, is the fluffy stuff that kind of binds it together. But if you have an owner group that's not happy, unhealthy, doesn't want to build anymore, but they'll go charter a boat instead of build a boat. It's not good for anybody. The crew, listen, from both my time in yacht management as well as in just supplying boats and working with crew around the world, has always been a challenge and will continue to be a challenge, I believe.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the shipyards. If we don't have shipyards building the fleet and supporting the fleet, nothing else matters either. So you have done an excellent job, I believe, in creating a wonderful owner's experience, and I think Feadship should get credibility for that. I think that the brand is so solid, and every owner I speak to that owns a Feadship speaks highly of the brand and the people behind the brand. So good job on that. And the shipyards, obviously, we talked about that. So you're investing in shipyards. I've watched what's happened in the Netherlands with all the new yards and the investments going on there. And it's like, wow, that's, I remember I was up in Morecambe a couple of years ago and there was I forget the hull number, but it was 99.9 meter boat, and walked through that and was just like you were saying, the attention to detail. I was 16 years old when I learned to weld. So I'm looking at all the fabrications going, yeah, this is good. But yacht design and crew, I want to put this on the table because as technology has changed on these boats, I think we're going to start finding ways of finding more space on boats. And when you look at the shipyard, when I say shipyards, not shipyards, marina facilities for these yachts that are being made, there's more attention now being given towards crew amenities, creating a place for crew to go to. But when I talk to crew, captains, stews, everybody involved on deck, below deck, the biggest challenge is this is a big boat for us right now, but we get to come off this boat and go home. The crew's 24/7 on this boat. And when they're out at sea and they're working for the owner, this boat gets small. And is there design trends that would start focusing on better crew spaces so that the crew has a better environment? And I think that then leads to crew retention, crew culture, which then leads to better owner experience because the owner now has got a crew that's in a good headspace to do what they need to be done. That's a conversation that I'm trying to get started with some of the people that have a stake in the game as far as future yacht design. I'll be talking to some designers about this, but I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions of what that could or should look like.
So we're a yacht builder, a Feadship builder, right? We build super yachts, and so we're not a management company, or we're not but I do have a certain take on that. Our DNA, we have a wonderful DNA. In the center of the DNA of our DNA, it says, "Together we build an amazing experience."
Yeah.
So this relates to the owner, but also everybody that is involved. And when I say everybody, including crew, of course. And what you're trying to describe is happy crew is also a happy owner.
Yes, sir.
So I think we have an industry problem in this, because you see crew being changed from yacht to yacht. You see captains being, teased to come and work on boat A and then boat B and boat C. Because of the fleet growing, the number of people we need grows with it.
Right.
And we still need to professionalize a lot more in making sure that we retain what we have and make everybody ambassador to bring in new blood, if you will,
Yes.
into the industry. That is something that we really need to take care of. I think also from an owner perspective, these are the ambassadors that are important for this industry, and making their experience flawless and absolutely appreciative is going to lead to more people embracing our amazing industry. So that is something that we together need to invest in. But it is known that we simply have a challenge in making sure we have enough influx of new crew to be able to retain the fleet as it is with its impeccable service. Because we're also expecting the super yacht hospitality and service on board.
Yes, it's an expectation.
Yeah, so the Feadship has always had in mind that we build a yacht for a certain owner, but we also build it with efficiency for the crew. So the technical spaces, we simply pay attention to that, to make it easy for everybody to maintain the yacht, that they can reach every part of the yacht when it's necessary. When you take off the panel, everything has to be flawlessly arranged. You've been to our yards, you've seen how. So all of that matters to make life easier for crew. But there are also a lot of investments in, if you look at how we are now serving our fleet, we are doing a lot more monitoring to support the crew. We are putting a lot of more data in, like as if you have a car. Right. Your car now tells you that you need to fill in extra oil in your engine. You got a lot of indications.
Right. Your tires need more pressure or whatever
all of
that
that
looks like.
So that is also, being a very important feature on board of yachts. So the data monitoring, the notion that you can keep your yachts from a, anticipation point of view.
That's right. Better to be ahead of it than get behind it.
Exactly.
Right. Absolutely. And then, because the last thing anybody wants in a position to say to your boss, hey, we can't leave the dock right now because this isn't working and it's going to take 3 weeks to get it fixed. Yeah. And it could have been something that you saw coming and got ahead of. So, that's important.
Well, the use of materials. Mm-hmm. We are mimicking a lot of also materials nowadays to make sure that we don't using the more and more rare materials also brings along a lot of maintenance issues. We are thinking cleverly of how we build our yachts. How do we make sure that we don't have an overuse of, for instance, air conditioning, when you can also build yachts with a large overhang to create more shadow inside, and you use less air. And all these features, all these technical little details, they come into play.
There you go.
And they all relate to how pleasant the work on board is.
That's good. So, Farouk, before we wrap up, I have one last thought I want to share with you. And this is something that I try to espouse to people when I'm in conversations, and that's doing well for others. Mm-hmm. I think that we're also in a very wonderful environment where we're given the opportunity, because it's a world industry and we are touching so many spaces and people. Yeah. And so I try to put that in my own lifestyle in what I do. And I was reading the other day as I was getting ready to talk to you about a community initiative that you're involved in called, is it SETI? SETI.
You're talking about my olive oil.
Yeah. I thought that'd be a fun way to give you an opportunity to share that, because I thought that was cool.
Thank you. And then I would like to say something about Feadship. They're also doing that.
Please, absolutely.
SETI is something so personal and dear to me. I have a Tunisian background.
Yes.
I live in this amazing industry, and I'm here with wonderful people like you, and I'm meeting all these amazing owners and so on. And I have this richness of where I work.
Right.
And then I go to Tunisia twice, 3 times, 4 times a year. And I see a lot of poverty. I see people struggling. And my background is an agricultural one.
Okay.
Or at least my parents and my grandparents. And Tunisian olive oil is actually one of the best olive oils in the world. And everybody claims this, I know.
Yeah, right.
Greece will say the same, Spain, Italy,
Turkey.
everybody will say the same. But Tunisia is the 4th largest exporter of olive oil. In Europe, Italy, Spain, France buy Tunisian olive oil in bulk in very large quantities, and they use it to enrich their own olive oils and sell it as Italian, Spanish. And
No way.
I swear.
Oh, wow.
So what happens with this is that in Tunisia, the olive oil farmer gets a penny for their hard work, for ultimate quality. So I wanted to break that. I wanted to do something for these communities, helping. So the whole formula, CD means respect, by the way, in Arabic.
Okay.
It is a word of respect. And what we're doing is we're paying great value what the farmer gets. We have incorporated equal pay for equal work. So women and men that do the same picking of the olives, they get the same salaries. It is a fair trade initiative, and it's certified biological, so certified organic.
Right.
And so that is a personal project that is so close to me. It gives me great fulfillment.
Good.
To be able to do that, because I actually know the people that are picking the olives.
Wow.
And I met them, and I sat down I drank tea with them. I shared bread dipping into olive oil,
I love
and I'm
that
eating
too.
it.
When there's good olive oil, it's just nothing like it. So maybe 1 or 2 people listening to this podcast might go, and maybe help turn that corner just a little bit,
Yeah, you can order it only online.
Okay.
cd.store. Well,
all right. Say that again. You get enough.
cd.store. But let me go into
Fair enough.
To Feadship. So this industry, everybody's doing, because I don't want it to become something commercial.
No, I get that. No, but I respected that. I thought I wanted to put that out there because I read that and I thought.
It is absolutely something that is very personal and very dear to me. But the industry at large, if you look at philanthropy from our owner's perspective, if you look at everybody's doing their part, if you look at our corporate social responsibility page, I'm going to highlight one little example of it.
Please.
So in Amsterdam, we are supporting, for instance, an initiative that is called Social Boat. So Social Boat is a yard in Amsterdam that builds tenders, and they take people that have lost their chances in society, homeless people that are out of jobs, people that don't have a future orientation anymore.
Right, lost their hope.
They lost hope. We bring them in with this project. They build together a tender at Social Boat. And what we make them learn is learn craftsmanship, learn a skill. And they build these boats. This boat then is offered during summertime to people that don't have money to be able to charter a boat and go out sailing. We offer that free of charge, and they go out sailing with their families and friends, and they have quality time on board. What happens to these people that have started to learn a craft? They are now entering the market to pay their fair share to contribute again and get out of their misery. So
brilliant.
That is, for instance, a way of trying to contribute also.
Wow.
But these are everybody. I'm sure all of us are doing, in one way or another.
We hope so.
Is doing something to help. And I can name, I don't know how many examples we do, but I always find it wrong to be shouty about it, to display it to an extent, because it's something you simply have to do.
I don't think you would use that. I get it. There's a little bit of yin and yang there, and you don't want to use that as a marketing platform to say, hey, aren't we great? Yeah. But at the same time, having this conversation, that's why bringing up this concept of doing well for others, you get to plant seeds. I never thought of something like that. And that's brilliant, because if you've spent any time in Fort Lauderdale, you see we've got a real significant homeless problem here.
Yes.
And it exists throughout the United States. And I'm sure there's a lot of initiatives, but that whole Social Boat idea is because we're a boat building culture here. Yes. We've got the infrastructure. Who knows? Maybe someone listening here will take that idea and say, hey, maybe we can replicate that over here. so good.
So it boils down to that we all have cacophonous lives. The world is busy. There's a lot of challenge. There are a lot of challenges and so on. And our industry is actually an entertainment industry. We are all about experiences and moments of quality with whoever you are with. And that's what we are facilitating, actually. So spreading that love a little bit in whatever way you can is only inspiration for people that are going to be probably ending up in this industry in whatever form they can, whether that's crew, whether that is, and also owners. So there's so much more purpose in this industry than we all just mention.
Right.
But you also have to be a little bit humble in how you bring that across.
I agree. And I'm glad you put it that way. And that's a great way to wrap up, because when I mentor, and I do that, I work with YPY, Young Professionals in Yachting.
Yeah, which is also a beautiful example.
It didn't exist when I was coming into this industry. And wow, what a wonderful leg up they get, And so right now I'm mentoring two people and hopefully giving them some good insight and guidance.
Yes.
And I don't put that out there. I don't, like you, I don't brag about that. But I use it as an example because I think those of us who've been blessed enough to make a good living in this industry and be embraced by this industry, and I've enjoyed that. It's wonderful to help perpetuate this culture. And that's what I'm trying to do, is perpetuate this culture. This is a wonderful business. Some people, we have conversations, I'm going to leave and go do this. And I said, well, Don Henley wrote the lyrics years ago, so famously said, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave Hotel California. Mm-hmm. I see people leave and then come back a year or two later. And it's like you miss something, because this is such a cultural, personal, enriching business.
Definitely.
And like us right now having this conversation, we've known each other for a while. And here we are sitting and spending an hour with each other on this rainy morning in Palm Beach. And I couldn't think of anything I'd rather do right now than have this conversation, Farouk. And thank you for being part of this. No, and hopefully if I start the OPY, Older Professionals in Yachting, one day you'll join me.
Oh, definitely. Oh, it's we're friends, and I hope people still value our life experience in this industry and take it for what it is and do something with it.
Thank you. Yes.
So thank you very much for inviting me and for having me.
Oh,
you're doing an amazing podcast, and it's enriching that you simply tap on into all the topics.
Right. Yeah. It's connecting dots and hopefully making people think. That's what I'm really hoping to achieve here. Let people think and start making good decisions and really participating in this. So this has been Yachting International Radio's Yachting USA. And I thank Farouk for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the show.
Thank you.
We'll see you around, and let's keep the conversation going.
Absolutely.
All right. Until next time, I'm out of here.
Bye-bye.